All right, welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy of the Inebri-art podcast. We are back again at the Craft Beer Cellar recording in our little home away from home here on Main Street in Plymouth. So if you're in Plymouth and you want to grab a beer or some locally made wine, or I believe they even have like sake and kombucha, and I think they even have root beer now, stop in and check them out. I believe they're online. You can check them out there. And so today's guest, I've kind of been going back and forth with, I feel like, for almost like 2 years, kind of online, trying to like work together and hang your art in places. And it was funny. We kind of lost touch. Mm-hmm. And then I was at the Mal Bar, and Jim had bought Anthony Bourdain piece after Anthony passed away.
Right.
And I'm like, God damn, that looks familiar. And it was just the style. And
right.
I knew right away. And he's like, oh, you know, Robert Greene painted that. I'm like, I know that guy. So, Robert, is it Robert?
Rob is
Rob?
good,
Okay.
yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, sir.
This will be the kind of disjointed craziness that it always is. So, you're obviously a painter.
I am.
Since you painted Anthony Bourdain. Now, a lot of your work tends to focus around celebrities. Do you like some? I know there was you have a piece over at Beantown Vape, right?
Biggie.
Biggie, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's not. I guess the thing, what I always try to do is find some true raw emotion, and then people that are famous obviously are well recognized. If you'll notice, sadly, mm-hmm. most of my stuff happens soon after someone's death.
Yeah. So they're kind of memorial pieces?
They are, but to be truthful, it's more that I have to be attached emotionally to my work. I have to, or I can't do it.
So if someone was like, hey, King Kong Bundy just passed away, and you're like, I don't really know who that is, it wouldn't be something that
Well, I'll stop you there, because I know who King Kong Bundy is, and if I read his story, let's say I didn't know him, and I read his story, and it had some emotional value to me, if I can connect with him.
Yeah.
I sit with I look up as much information, if I can read about them, if I watch, and I'll listen to their playlist while I work.
Yeah. Okay.
I really try to get into their how they would feel, or how they would and again, I guess I search for this. People always ask me. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I'm not sure of the guy's name. I could look it up, but there was I wish I could remember. There was an artist, a famous guy, who walked. He left a letter, and then he walked out in the street somewhere, and he found him in a river a couple days later. So he was going to commit suicide.
Yep.
A buddy of mine wants me to do the painting, and he sent me a bunch of pictures to work off of, and they were all smiling. And I said to him, I said, look, there's no truth in that to me. You know, this guy killed himself, and he suffered with major depression his whole life. And if I paint someone, I want to paint them a genuine, truthful picture, because if you lie, you'll get caught. Yeah.
So is that why? Because the thing that really struck me about the Anthony Bourdain piece is, I've seen a lot of pictures of your work, and it's the only one that I remember seeing. I'm not saying it's the only one, but that's all black and white.
I moved back and forth. It's kind of a funny story. I used to work in all black and white, and then I had this girlfriend who came in one day and said, why don't you ever work in color? So I said, all right. And that, as soon as I did that, that's when people really started going crazy for my work.
Oh,
so I was like, whoa.
I mean, it really like I was, when I leave work, I do so much after work. They're always like, what's on today's schedule? I'm like, I'm interviewing a couple artists, and they're like, who? And like this guy, Rob Greene, and I'm like, stuff's really cool. And so they're like, do you not have any pictures? So I kind of like hopped on your Facebook page, and I pulled up the picture of the lion.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, that's really nice. So it's like, maybe we'll use that as Fish make note. We'll use the line. He's not even listening to me. All right, he's vaguely listening. Well, maybe we'll use that as kind of like the header for this episode. But it's really bright, vivid colors.
Yeah. Again, it's about truth, right? So that in that particular painting, I don't really have any emotional connection to it, but I do this thing where I work with the black and white gray tones, and then I add some color. But again, I don't want my pieces to really be fluff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that whole gray thing has a lot to do with not taking away or not adding emotion by adding color.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, I gotta admit, it's about eyes for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can't get good eyes in a picture,
yeah.
Well, that's not fair. If I get good eyes, it's going to be a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the eyes, even in, reproduction or whatever, they capture what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely tell the truth. So.
And so how do you pick your subject matter? Because I know you just sent me a picture of Jerry Garcia. And it's not like he passed away yesterday.
Right.
So.
Well, there's an interesting story, too.
Or did that just strike you?
No, so again, when I was younger, I traveled with the dead.
Okay.
A lot of people did, right?
Yeah.
So I had somewhat of a connection. I think I enjoyed the whole atmosphere and the party situation. I play the banjo, so
okay.
I love Jerry, but I wasn't as emotionally attached as a lot of people are. The people who go crazy for Jerry.
Oh, sure.
But he had such a big following, and again, there's a story. There's a real story to tell,
Mm-hmm.
And so that one had a lot to do with, I knew people were going to want to see that one.
Yeah.
But again, the story.
Yeah.
I gotta have some kind of emotional connection.
Right. So even if you weren't necessarily into an art musician's work, if they had an interesting story that kind of caught your attention or appealed to you in some way.
Jerry was diabetic. I too am diabetic.
Oh, so you
He
kind of
was heroin addict. I too was heroin addict.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So and then there are songs by the dead, like Ripple for number one.
Mm-hmm.
Is a song that has forever moved me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can get right in with that,
Yeah.
But there are people that I definitely just don't have any, if you're a famous actor that's just one of those fluff guys,
Yeah.
If I find out you had a background
Right.
that I can, connect with somehow and have some feeling, then I'm in.
Yeah. So we talked about like some recent stuff, but when did you get started in art? Like when did it?
Well, I started doing art when I was young. I didn't really have a family situation that would promote
Mm-hmm.
the artwork, but
Sure.
I was actually, I won't say that. My mother taught special ed, and I used to make really cool art projects for their classes to help them teach. My father, on the other hand, didn't really pay much attention to it, and so I stopped. I'm always doing creative stuff, but I didn't really make any kind of living painting or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I went to acting school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was pursuing that for a while, and then
were you looking to get into movies or like?
Yeah, I wanted
Broadway or.
More Broadway, but if it were drama, not
Musicals.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I was in acting school. I was starting to work. Then I got married to Christopher Walken's niece.
Shut up! Really?
Yeah. And that
Did you meet Christopher Walken?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
He's a good dude. However, you would. I suppose there's a small part of me that hoped that would be a connection for me, right?
Right.
I would be lying if I said that's not true. But now we find out, like every other person, that when you're married, you got to get a job, real job, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I started doing tile work, which was one a job that I could use my creativity.
Yeah.
Still.
Sure.
And I make good money doing it.
Yeah.
You know, but
is that still your day job or
no?
No. Okay.
It's always there for me if I want to do it.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd rather. I can make money painting. And painting, like anything else, you got to have discipline. You got to get up and paint.
It's got to, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I see so many, especially younger artists, who are like, I want to do this for a living. I want this to be my job. And
yeah, be careful what you ask for.
Absolutely, but then it's like, okay, well, you know, are you working at it? Like, how much time do you spend? Oh, well, I'm busy. I mean, like, well, you need to get unbusy,
right,
and work on it.
Yeah.
This past podcast guest who's been on twice, a good friend of ours, Daniel Kern. Amazing artist, like phenomenal, but he is well, first of all, Dan, we love you. He's like the most boring guy, because you'd be like, hey, we're all going out for beers. He will have one beer and be like, all right, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And he goes right back to the studio. So
yeah.
I mean, it's great because I have several of his pieces. I mean, it's gorgeous work, but he's got that commitment.
Sign.
Yeah,
it means and not only the commitment, but he enjoys what he's doing, and probably to the level, if it's like me, that when again, there are some days that I get up and I'd rather do other things, but put my music on, I sit down, and when I do, boy, it's hard to drag me away.
Yeah,
that magic happens, and
once you kind of get in the zone, and hours just kind of melt away, and
sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning shows up, and I'm still sitting there. Yeah.
So do you find it kind of? I've actually talked with artists of both types. I've met artists who kind of like really stress about getting it exactly right. When I draw and stuff, I tend to kind of find it very relaxing, very zen, almost like my brain kind of shuts down a little bit from all the background noise. Like, which camp would you put yourself in?
It's very soothing to me. Mm-hmm. This is where our conversation will start to get a little crazy. But
those are the most fun conversations.
Yeah, I get in this. Well, this is sober painting now. You know, this is different. So we'll discuss the other way, but after. But I hear this. There's this perfect creativity, and when I get there, there's a noise that starts to happen. It's the hum of the earth. It's the sound of Om. And I figured all this stuff out after, but it's this hum. I get this feeling in the top of my head, and then it's on. Yeah. I know I'm in this perfect creative zone, and it feels good. It's the only high I get these days. You know?
Yeah.
So, I am a believer that although I'm doing the work, this is not going to be a spiritual conversation, but I do believe that I'm only the hand of the work. I believe that the vibe is there, and so when I say I need everything to be perfect, I step back 1,000 times, and if one brushstroke can ruin a painting, or move it in the wrong direction, so there is perfect math.
Yeah,
but I also believe there are no mistakes, because I like to believe I'm being driven.
Yeah.
More than just myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd like to think that there's something bigger than me moving my hand, right?
So kind of like you're the instrument to get the
exactly.
painting out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just really believe in vibes, man.
I've met artists that believe that the image is already on the canvas. It's their job to let it out, I guess is kind of the best way to describe it.
It could be. I think I more have my eyes. Somebody explained it to me once in a way that I found was interesting. So as if there was a big mainframe computer unit out there, and we're all Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
So all the information about everything is out there floating around.
Okay.
And if you're a person of science, you know that there really is no hard matter. We're all just a bunch of electrons, right?
Yep.
And then we as different Wi-Fi units are going to pick up on certain things. Some computers are better at one than another, right? Mm-hmm. I came into this world picking up on emotions and vibes. I really appreciate emotional truth. I think we live in a world where people aren't who they are. Everybody's driven by what they think they should be or what somebody else thinks they should be, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate emotional honesty, and since you don't get that much, I feel fortunate that I'm good at basically, I get to read it. Again, on the other side of that, it can be very depressing because if you always know the truth about everything, or if I think I know the truth,
right?
The
truth isn't always happy.
It's very rarely happy.
Yeah,
And
I hear one of the most common phrases you hear, especially if you're down, when people will be like, "Oh, well, it'll get better. It has to." And you're like, "No, it really doesn't."
That's right.
There's no reason. Like, that's almost like a false even to the point where I'll be like, I'm not trying to be like a pity party or woe is me. I'm like, that is an unrealistic.
It's true.
Expectation. There's no.
Yeah, and that brings
that's going to make sure. Like, I almost feel like it takes some of the onus off of you to be like, oh well, it's just gonna get better. I'm like, no, you have to make it better. Like, you have to be a participant.
Yeah, and believe me, I've woken up many a day wishing that I was a more simple-minded or simple-thinking person that as it appears is as it was, and it's so, and I think happiness. There's a lot of happiness in the world, but I think personally we can connect more on our suffering than we can on our happiness. And so when I do a painting like Bourdain, he was a guy I really connected with. I thought he was a very genuine, honest guy. We've lived kind of, parallel lives to an extent.
Because he struggled with addiction too, correct?
Yeah, he was. He said he had a statement. He said, "I couldn't wait to be a heroin addict."
Yeah,
and I can relate to that too. Another thing that was said about him is he was a loner that couldn't stand to be alone, and there's another thing that I can relate to.
Yeah.
But so then people want to. Why would you? Why is your persona? Why would you pick this contemplation of suicide picture? Why is that the one, right?
Right.
But when people go and look at it, people don't go say, "Oh my God, that's hard," They're able to connect with that because that's truth.
Right.
Right? Sure, he smiled a lot. I'm sure he made a lot of money, and traveled the world, so he had smiling times. But what can we collectively discuss that we are all in tune with is the suffering part of it, right?
Well, it's like,
I don't know what makes you happy, but I sure as shit can tell you what makes you sad.
Exactly. Some people like reality television. I don't.
Right.
Some people like to read books. I kind of struggle with reading, so it's not what I love to do. But, death makes us all sad. And so we all, I agree, like we all can.
It also has the ability to move you from one emotion to another. So I would like to think that when people see a picture of someone in distress or upset, that they'll say, you know what, I relate to that, but then maybe move to a place where I'm not out to make people miserable. I'm not to make people down. I want them to think and then maybe get a good feeling out of that, Well,
I mean, I was talking to Jim and Heather just the other day, and they said how many people talk about that painting and take selfies with it, and so it's definitely getting. Well,
that's where it's
attention.
at for me. That's this the painting thing for me is my. Going back to that whole truth thing is I don't have a lot of friends because I don't have a lot of people that like to tell the truth. People that are constantly lying bore me. Yeah, it's tedious. Mm-hmm. So, one of the ways that I get to connect with society is through my work. Yeah. When a piece of work goes out and 1,000 people call you and tell you their feelings about it, well, I just made an honest connection with 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. Everybody tells me the truth, even if they say they hate it.
Do you get a lot of that? Do you get a lot of people?
No, I get. I don't know if I sent you a picture. With a girl with a guy grabbing her from behind, covering her mouth.
I think I've seen that one. I'm not
sure.
I
had a few people tell me that scared them.
Yeah.
And then there are other people.
But that's a emotion that we all share.
It's better than looking at something that doesn't move you at all, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or find another artist.
Yeah.
had my first wife was murdered in a vicious way.
Oh, geez.
So I have a connection to that. You know, am I some kind of sicko because I revisit that kind of thing? No, it's part of my life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
so do you find it kind of therapeutic in a way? Or?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I don't like the notion that because I've experienced something, I'm not allowed to have feelings about it.
Right.
You know, that people like to pigeonhole people because they've been through a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or his wife died, so let's not talk about death in front of him.
Right. Yeah.
And then what does that really do is that cuts the person out now.
Right.
You know? And you'll find that a lot, I'm sure, when you matter of fact, I was talking to my ex-wife's mother recently, and she said that there's not a lot of people that she can talk to because everybody wants it to be fluff.
Right.
Or not talk.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And she wants to talk about it, you know?
And you know, it's especially those emotions where, like, you know, sure, you miss them. They're gone.
Yeah.
But, like, what if you have, you know, you feel the feelings that you feel. You don't really have control. And, like, I've kind of heard stories of people being mad at people that have passed. Like, that's still a valid emotion.
Sure.
You know, especially maybe you had some unresolved, you know, issue between the two of you.
Yeah.
So it's not wrong to feel that, but people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody has the right to do what they want to do, and I guess that's another nice thing about art is that I don't have to really. I'm not in charge of what you feel,
right?
You know? Yeah, and you want to keep it to yourself. You want to express it to me. I had a lady. I painted a picture. I don't do political stuff, but that whole you know, this president, the current president. I say anyway. I painted a picture of Donald Trump. Yeah. I painted a picture of Donald Trump with the Russian hat on. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I had a lady. I was carrying it through Boston, right down by the City Hall.
Yeah.
I had a lady chase after me, wanting to beat me up. She was calling me an asshole, and I was like, lady, look, it's just art.
Yeah.
It's just art, you know?
It's just art, and you're kind of proving my point.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I get to have a connection with people, which is I think is a lot more honest. So I guess I found a way to filter out that which I despise.
Yeah.
You know?
And so would you rather that kind of reaction from that woman that chased you down?
I don't like that.
Is that better than no reaction at all?
I don't. Okay, yeah, so let me think about that. I, like anyone else, some people get dressed up, some people make a lot of money. We all want interaction. We all want somebody to pat us on the back and tell us they love us, right?
Right, yeah.
So if I misfire, which happens, I mean, you can't bat 1,000 every time, you know?
Of course not.
So sometimes that happens, and there are people out there that will be kind and say, but I know as soon as... And does it hurt my feelings? No. I mean, it might have at one point, but now I realize it's a lot of pressure to nail it every time. You just...
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
Well, you can hope to.
And I almost feel like, especially artists are probably more critical of their art than anything else. If you're trying to bat 1,000 every single time, you're going to have a really rough time with things.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I did have that problem. I had a lot of people tell me what I just told you, which is one of the simpler things in life, which is, you know, if you're gonna work at something continuously, you're not always gonna have a good day. And I took that in as an adult and said, yeah, you know, you're right. That's not to say I won't spend 40 hours on a canvas and then throw a hammer at it, you know? Or I paint over them a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
I've torn up some drawings or gotten halfway through a drawing and just been like, nope.
Sure.
And usually I just write on it, you know, I suck or, you know, this sucks or...
But when I told you before when that vibe hits, when that sound starts to happen and that high comes about, that's kind of what I'm looking for. That's when I know it's right. You know, that's when I know it's on. So I have this little inner compass that tells me when it's on.
So to get to that point, like I know athletes kind of talk about a similar, like being in the zone kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them will have like rituals and superstitions. Like, do you have a ritual like to kind of get set up to paint that kind of helps put you into that state of mind?
Well, all right. So now we're going to go off into the other side of it, which is the past ritual used to involve narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a difficult conversation because, not difficult for me, just that the answer, it's like one of these answers that's always twisted up artists is, are we better without? Or right? Are we better without? Or isn't it okay that the drugs actually help us?
How many bands have cleaned up and then put out an album and you've been like,
exactly.
Man.
So I have that. I have that feeling. See what the emotional connection's always there for me, but the work gets tedious sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially I paint big canvas; those things take a while.
Yeah, they're huge.
So heroin helped me get through that.
Yeah.
There's no tedious with heroin.
Right.
Everything is lovable and cloudy. But so when I got sober, I stopped painting for a long time because I couldn't have that feeling. I didn't like the tediousness.
Yeah.
And I also...
How long have you been sober, if you don't mind me asking?
2 years now.
Okay.
It took it took a long time before I could go down there and paint again, though.
Yeah.
I used to be angry because I used to think that the connection...
Did you think you weren't going to be able to paint again?
I think, and it came along, like I think a lot of addicts, when they have to let their thing go, they think they're going to be somebody different. In the end, the reality is that although the heroin helped me get through the process, I think it also did a little bit in the way of numbing me, so I'm still hopeful that, because it takes a while to recover emotionally and have everything flowing properly. But I'm hopeful that I can be more connected.
Yeah.
Now, saying that, the reason I became an addict very early on in age, not necessarily heroin, but I always abused something, is because that emotional thing is always there for me, and it's there to the nth degree. So sometimes you don't always want to walk around feeling that, and I've asked about that. I've had arguments with people. People say, you live in the moment. Live in the moment. There is no past. There is no future. And as an artist, I always used to think it was my job to carry suffering around with me. Yeah. Well, some people will say no, and you can visit it when you want to visit it, when you need to work. Mm-hmm. And I say that probably, and I don't want to piss anybody off, so this is my personal opinion, that suffering and art do go hand in hand, and it shows in the work, I do tell people all the time, take a painting, the original, put it on a wall, one that moves you, and then make a poster. Go to Kinko's, copy that, and put the poster next to it. You're not gonna... The vibe was left there in that work. You can't reproduce it,
Yeah.
And so if that's a fact, and most people can agree with that, then most people will be able to agree with me that there's some vibe that gets left behind. Something gets transferred from that person to the work, right? Mm-hmm. And we know this to be true. When you go to a museum, there's chairs in front of it so you can sit and just take it in, right? But when you reproduce it, there's nothing there.
Right. It's just in Spencer's.
Right. So I think I'm getting off track here a little bit, but
that's what we do here.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm learning how to have all that emotion and live with it, not let it get so bad that I gotta bury it.
Yeah. I've said it before. I always feel like creative people have, demons and dark sides, and to me it's very chicken versus which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. Because do you make art as a way to cope with your kind of dark side, or did the art kind of lead you into the path of that kind of situation?
Right.
Like, do you have an opinion on that? Do you think?
I honestly believe a little bit going along with what I said before about people are connected to certain things. I wouldn't go so far as to say I believe people can talk to the dead, but I can say there are people that are much better connected with what's going on around them, with the real honest vibe. So I guess true. The art that I like and the artists that I really appreciate are, I don't know if I ever can name one that wasn't somewhat mentally ill, addicted, and everything else. I think it does go hand in hand. Chicken or egg, I think it's a little bit nature nurture, but I do believe you're born with chemistry in your head that there's a certain kind of brain that works that way.
Who were some of your artists that influenced you?
Well, there's a question that it's not. I'm not a guy. I can't tell you what date it is. Can't tell you what year anything happened. Yeah. And when I see art, I don't write somebody's name down.
Oh, so it's more.
I just stop and appreciate the if there's truth in that work, and it moves me. Yeah. I can see the difference. Why I apologized earlier is because I want to say there's a lot of artists, especially now with the internet and everything, that just get up and do art, which there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I say do it. Yeah. At the same time, when I see that kind of work, I don't see the truth in it. Yeah. It's very important to me. I think that really, bottom line, black and white, what makes or breaks it is the truth. Yeah. You can't, I don't think you can lie. You can try. And that's why, when that guy asked me, he sent me the smiling picture of the guy, I sent him back a more realistic one. I said, look, this is where it was at. Yeah. I just don't want to fake anything. Yeah. I'll tell you, tile work. So I cared about my job. I did a good job. I rose to the top of that industry. I always was very meticulous, but I was also creative, which is helpful, right? But I have a cousin who started working with me young. He used to help me out, and then I went to see him, I don't know, a year ago or something. And here I am still hacking away at tile, one job at a time. And he's making $1 million. And he's got 20 guys working for him. He's a house builder, right? Yep. And I said to him, man, what am I... He actually goes fishing every day now, right? And all these guys just say, what the fuck am I doing wrong, George? Yeah. What happened? He says, Rob, you care too much. Yeah. Right? You just care too much. And then I ponder that question quite a bit, because I wonder what are you supposed to do in life? Should you care? Should you have the pride in your work, or do you go for the big money? It's a question I guess every artist has to ask.
And it's one of those.
But if you go for the money, you got to stop caring.
Yeah, to a certain extent, it's almost, to me, it's almost what. I'll give you the perfect example. So I was playing a board game with a friend one time, and he was kind of a sore winner. And I'm like, well, I wasn't really playing to win. He's like, what do you mean? How can you not play to win? I'm like, I was playing to hang out with a friend and play a board game and have fun, which I did, so I kind of won. Yeah. And so it's like, you care about and I'm, please interject if I'm assuming too much, but you care about the job and its look, and where your cousin may care, he's helping people provide for their families by giving them jobs, and so it's almost like, what part are you going to care about? Right. Yeah. Right. So that also could very well, the truth of that could be that I'm a egomaniac. It could be that I am. I don't know. I'm sure somebody somewhere along the lines taught me to
I guess it was my father always taught me just be the best you can at whatever. So I'm sure there's something else in there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, shit is shit. When I see shitty work, to me that's not work. It's just not to
Right.
be, you know. And again, so just like my cousin, I love him just as much as I used to love him before that conversation.
Right.
And the same thing with any artist. Whatever you do, man, that's your thing. I have nothing bad to say about that.
Yeah.
But let's not take it to the point where we're having mutual conversations about our work, because I do my thing for a different reason than you do your thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and again, I'm sure I suffer from a good degree of mental illness. But I don't. If I don't have truth, and because look, if somebody calls me and says, "I want you to paint this,"
Mm-hmm.
right? No, it's different than that. But I can't. I have a very hard time with commissions because I'm not connected. There's no truth,
Right.
and I just want to run them out to the dumpster every time. You know,
Yeah.
It's false. People they love them.
Right. Right.
There's no complaining about the work.
But you don't feel that connection, so you don't feel it's perfect. And
I don't have it. They have it. So maybe I'm a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
You know, here I started this conversation off saying this is my way to connect with people, and I'd like people to feel. But at the same time, I got a part in this too. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
No, but I mean that's the truth in it. You know.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about you were asking kind of like what the rules of the podcast were.
Yeah.
And you said you paint on, let's see, places that you may not necessarily have permission to paint on.
Yeah.
Is that something you've always done, or
I
we're
did.
talking graffiti,
I did when I was a kid. Yeah, and again, so I'm not one of these guys that goes out and writes my name in colorful letters. I would prefer to do a little thing here and there that makes people think,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's positive or negative or whatever it is, I really want to, again, truth.
Yeah.
I like to point out truth in the middle of this crazy lie we all live in.
Yeah.
You know, I love that feeling too because I live in this world too. When I walk around a corner and someone just punches you in the face with the truth, I love that. So that's what I try to do. Canvas is expensive.
Yep.
I like the idea of that whole city vibe, and you know, there's something like a town like this. You have a certain kind of people. They would never allow me to paint the wall here,
Yeah.
even if I asked permission. You know.
Well, they're actually starting to have some murals in
Well,
town.
that would
so-
be great.
yeah.
And you know what I think's going to happen, because I've been at this for a while, and I put a post up at one point. I never got more negative comments, and I said, "Look, I'm not trying to paint a bad picture in a building you guys love. Let's find a nice spot. Go to any place in the world that's a really great city like this, but you got to add a level of hipness. You know, you got to." People have always followed where the art was, always, since the beginning of time.
You don't graffiti Plymouth Rock.
Right.
But kind of blank brick wall that
Sure.
maybe doesn't face directly onto Main Street or something.
Yeah, and
Those are
let's put a
perfect
nice
ones.
piece
Yeah.
of artwork up
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
You know, I'm not trying to paint a dick on the wall. You
Right.
know, I want to.
Which people do.
Yeah, right. And I take as much offense to that as anybody else. That to me is, you know, it's begging for the wrong kind of attention.
Yeah.
But I am noticing now. I was just in North Carolina. My buddy's a real estate agent there, and he said, "Let's get a mural going." I said, "Yeah, well, you're a real estate guy, and you're one of these guys that knows everybody in town. Go talk. Let's get it going. I'll fly down here and do it."
Yeah.
And then he never did, obviously, but he sent me a post the other day that they gave a guy the whole side of a building, which would be any artist's dream, you know?
Right.
I'm like, well, but anyway, my point is, even in, it's not rural North Carolina, but it's a smaller city in North Carolina, big art pieces like that are really starting to catch on.
Right.
You know?
What's the largest you've ever worked?
I've never got to do the full side of a building. I've done, one floor, one story high, but I would like to get one of those lifts and do one of
the whole
have it be a week long or a month long project. That's my dream. I would really like to have it. I was fortunate to, when I was in Boston, I wanted to do a kind of a memorial piece to all the people that have lost their lives to opiate addiction in the, let's say we pick 5 years or whatever. So I went to the city and I put a proposal in, and he said yes.
Oh, cool.
Right now, they also gave me one of the oldest streets, which what I wanted to do was a different color brick on the street so each one for each person that had died, right?
Oh,
so that when you came around the, downtown Boston is very old and dark.
Mm-hmm.
When you came around this corner, you would see this street that was just like, wow, and make you think like how many people have had to die to bring this kind of beauty, But so I went through the whole process. I got through. If you ever tried to do a city project, you would know it takes a good solid year before they can. You got to go through every department. Has to okay it, right?
Did you go through the Department of Bricks? Do you have a brick painting permit?
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, you guys. How is it that you gave me the oldest historical street and you're going to let me paint on it and you're going to let it be about addicts, right?
Yeah.
But Boston's a cool city like that. Anyway, so the story doesn't have a good ending. The last thing, I'm outside of the city now, but they want to give me to this lady that's a so-called liaison.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she is a liaison.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it so-called. So I go and meet her, and I say, we're all ready to go. Here's my permit.
Yeah.
The police have to listen to me with this. I have the right to do this.
Right.
And she says, look, my job here is to make sure that the businesses jive with the government.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you this is not a great idea. You're going to make some people mad. So I'll give you another street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was cool. She gave me another street, but now I got to go through the whole... You don't understand.
Oh, so then you had to go back through the whole process all over.
And now it's a lost cause,
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll tell you about that is that idea, when I walked down the street and I saw it, and it maybe took me a week or whatever, but it hit me in the head. I think I had the idea first. That's why I went to find. But when you come to an artist and you say, that's not going to work, let's move somewhere else and let's get a different idea. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like that's where the idea was, like, it doesn't work.
And
again,
else, truth, right?
Yeah.
I could have, sure, that's a nice street. Let me just throw down, a picture of a red coat or George Washington.
Yeah.
No, that's not. There's no truth in there. So, tell you what I do want to do, though. You may have seen this. I think there's one or two guys out there doing it. But that cellophane that you can. It's about this wide. It's on a wall.
You use it to wrap pallets and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanna go one. There's a lot of logistics to this program, but
Okay.
What I want to do is I want to find like a city road or a road in a city.
Yeah.
And I want to wrap that plastic. It's 4 feet, right? I want to wrap it from across the street. I'm going to do this that night.
Okay.
Across the street from building to building, and then higher and higher and higher and higher, and then paint an actual reproduction of that wall this motherfucker's trying to build.
Yeah.
So that people, what I want them to do is come down the street and see what the fuck. This is it's not in your sight or in your mind. It's not your backyard, right? So
it's not your land that they're taking with
so
eminent
you don't
domain.
give a fuck,
right?
But maybe if you saw what that piece of shit, what it's going to look like. Not only that, what's it going to? It kills the vibe, man. It's like there is something to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll probably never be able to pull it off, but
you would never get permission to do that.
well, I wasn't going to ask permission. I wasn't going to ask permission, but I would have to have something high enough for me to work. You know,
right? Yeah.
It could go up pretty quick. It's pretty standard.
That's
paint
you
the
can
concrete at the bottom and some slats, and you run away.
Right.
There's a thrill to working at night like that, and the thrill of I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm old enough to know better than breaking the law. It's a felony when you get caught.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Graffiti's a felony?
Felony.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I'm careful about saying this. So you can't really go around posting your work because with social media now, they catch you, right?
It's an admission of guilt.
Admission of guilt, and like anybody that does graffiti, you want to put your name on it, so you find a symbol that works. But if they catch you on one, they're going to wrap it all up pretty quick.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I got to be careful about that. Any artist that believes in his work should be willing to take a felony. At the same time, I would prefer that someone comes to me and gives me the legal permission to do these things.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, because I mean, he's almost a household name.
Yeah. Him.
What do you think of Banksy's work? Do you think he is really commercial now? Do you think people just like his work because he's kind of gotten that commercial?
I will tell you, I believe his work is genius. It's simple to him. I believe it's truth.
Yeah.
Right? It's simple truth, like we talked about before. That's walk around the corner, see it. And if you notice, there's all kinds of people in the world. Some wear red hats, some wear white hoods. But they for some reason, Banksy seems to be. It's a broad stroke. Everybody seems to love it, right?
Yeah.
And that's because it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's truth.
Yeah.
Simple truth. Not trying to say a lot more than what he's saying, right?
Do you think it helps with him kind of trying to stay anonymous, where you can't say you're just doing it for the fame?
Yeah, man, he's a man after my own heart. If I could have it my way, I would do the same thing. As a matter of fact, it's kind of what I do. I don't have cards.
Yeah.
I don't have a studio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a gallery.
Yep.
But I am hopeful that, and thank God, I'm very grateful that the way it does work for me is as soon as I make a painting, it's gone sometimes before I'm done with them, right?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people, I'm sure there are people that can say that, but I'm very grateful that that's the way it is for me. So is it okay? In my dream would be just to do my work and for the right people to find it, because it's also very important to me that I know who bought it, where it's going to be, and that you appreciate it, So
would you refuse to sell a piece to someone that you didn't?
Sure.
Like if someone was like, oh, this is going to be worth a lot of money.
I don't do it for the money.
Yeah.
That would be tough for me.
Yeah.
But I usually get very lucky that people, because let's say Facebook, right? Like, wow, great, great. And then there's one guy that says how much I need it.
Yeah.
That guy, I don't have to question whether he has good intention. I know right there, I could tell by his,
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that way. If I go off I'd like to, earn, but there's other ways of getting there besides being commercial or,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather have it that I got there just by being true to my work and that the right people find it.
Right.
And then, and I think there's something to be said in less is more. If you can't get something, then there's people actually want it.
Yeah.
If everybody can have it, I don't reproduce my paintings. I don't take them and get.
You don't do prints or anything like that. Yeah.
No, I think that's an honor to the person that bought it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the piece, since we're talking about Banksy, that kind of has made the news most recently was the piece that at the closing auction shredded itself.
Yeah.
And it like I totally get what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like you paid this much, now it's trash.
Yeah.
But because it's famous, now it's probably this person
so
probably could double their money on it right now.
Right, and see, this is where this world gets a little confusing. Like the artist is trying to always get away, but they have the ability now now, especially with we're all connected.
Yeah.
You can't get away. You can't escape. They're gonna make you a sucker no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
They're gonna pull you in to their nonsense.
So like, even he was trying to be anti-commercial.
Right.
It's still commercial.
Right.
Yeah. So
more so, right? Can you
yeah.
imagine how much how he must have felt the next day?
Right.
Because I thought it was brilliant.
It was.
I thought it was brilliant. But I felt the same way you did.
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, shit. Now it's worth twice as much.
Right. And not only that, but now it's all over Facebook, and every person's posting it. So it's like he's lost his truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think he. I see these posts occasionally. I think one recently was somewhat true, or they vetted it out that someone had seen him doing a painting and caught him.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
There's this connection now that Massive Attack, the band Massive Attack.
Yeah.
Every time they're playing somewhere, a painting of his goes up.
Really?
Yeah. So they think that he's
maybe a member or connected to them somehow.
Yes. And there is. I didn't pursue the story too much because I don't really want it to be true that someone's sneaking around taking pictures of him doing his work and then putting it out to the world. It's like, what do you want to rob this guy of the one thing that makes him happy?
Right. Like,
he doesn't want to be known. Everybody else is out there trying to empty your pocket with their work.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that's not asking for anything.
Yep.
Just wants to see you think a little bit, right? And you're going to steal that from him.
One of my favorite things that I'm sure probably brought a smile to his face, he was in New York maybe 3-4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he had done a bunch of paintings and had someone outside of Central Park selling them for $50.
Mm-hmm.
And some woman bought one, but she haggled it down to $30. And I'm like, that is perfect. That that had to make him happy.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, so I got to protect myself from that because I'm a diehard. I don't want to get pulled into the nonsense.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I will find a way to connect with people through my art, and it would be nice if I could pay my bills, retire maybe, painting. But if that's not the case for me, then I'm going to keep painting.
And that's how you can tell someone who really loves it.
Yeah.
Pay me, don't pay me, I'm going to do it either way.
I'm the worst, man. It's like, and this also should, in my book, if there was a rule book, I think, I'm not sure that I can appreciate an artist that really can be good at assigning monetary value to his work. How do you do that? Because if it's really from your heart, there is no value.
Right.
The value should be who gets it, who gets to enjoy it,
I feel like that's why a lot of agents, that's why a lot of artists get agents. Because,
well, I was going to say, I can't. I had one girlfriend that was less than nice.
Okay.
She was real good at...
I think everybody's had a girlfriend that's less than nice.
Well, she was great because, I can remember a story where I was going to walk in and bring a painting and I said, I just need $50 for it. I think she got me $900.
Holy shit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's all about that, and I can't do it. I'm horrible at it. Matter of fact, I'd give them away if I had the opportunity,
Yeah.
But
my address is
canvas and all that stuff's expensive. And when I think about, I don't have self-esteem issues, but I used to do. I have a hard time saying no to people.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I think that's something to do with something I need to work on.
Yeah.
It's not just that I'm a super nice guy. It has to do with being liked and all that stuff. So I had a hard time saying no to people with tile work, which meant that I was working 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. I worked on Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of it. I had a family like everybody else. And there was the other guy who said, I'm going home. He went home and he never got in trouble for it,
Right. Because he probably worked a regular day.
Yeah. Right. But I should make a shit ton of money doing that job. So, anyway, I have to learn, and again, this is why I need to find a person, an in-between guy. so that when I'm done painting, I can hand it off to you, and I say, find somebody good for this.
Yep.
That would have to be a waiver for me, you know? Like shake the person's hand, let them make sure they love it, you know?
Well, it's I took part in the lobster art installation here, and they were auctioning them off 2 weeks ago. I happened to be in Vegas for work, and first of all, I never expected it to go as high as it did. And when
did you do one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I had a friend, actually, I had a couple friends that were kind of like, I was getting these text messages. It's up to this much now. Now it's up to this much.
Ooh.
Now it's up to this much. And I don't see any of that money, but it's still like, holy shit, someone's going to pay that?
Yeah.
And so as soon as the auction was over, I'm like, you have to find out who bought it and get me their contact information. I just want to say thank you. Like, I don't get any of that money,
but
it's the fact that someone appreciated it that much.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a text from Vegas, and I'm like, listen, obviously you gave my friend your number. I'm like, I just want to say thank you. That's really cool. And, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, we're going to put it outside near the kids' play area. And he's like, I'm going to put it on a base. And he's like, when the weather gets nice and it's installed, he's like, why don't you come by and check it out?
Well,
so it's like, to me, that felt great.
It goes back to what I was saying, which is that, in fact, it's my way of forming a relationship with somebody. Hopefully your work is something that's going to move somebody and they're going to enjoy. So you guys now share something,
Yeah.
Even if that's with a perfect stranger, I feel better if that person.
After that, and after I actually meet him in person, he won't be a perfect stranger anymore. He'll be an acquaintance, maybe
that's
a friend.
Right. And you'll have a friendship that will probably be more genuine, and you'll interact immediately because you guys already share something,
right?
Something you both love,
right? It's like
real. It's true.
It is truth. Yeah. And like you beat us here today, and Tatum was like, "Oh, the guy stopped by already, but he went across the street to Malbar," and I'm like, "I was checking on his painting."
Yeah. No, those guys. They're again. I just can't speak highly enough of both of them. They're
amazing people.
Yeah, they're really cool people, genuine. I don't get to meet a lot of people like that. That's not to say there's not a lot of people out there like that. It just means that I really appreciate them. They're hard workers. When I went to what's the crab one down there?
Blue-eyed
crab.
Yep.
There's truth in his work.
Mm-hmm.
There's love on that table.
Absolutely.
What's the difference? So you could take the same chef,
and he does it for him,
right?
He wants you to be happy.
He cares, right?
Yeah.
So you can take two people with the same recipe book to make that thing. One of them, the one that puts love into it, and it's not just the fact that they're skilled at what they do. It's that there's the vibe is there.
Yeah,
I know. I don't. You really get off the rails when you talk about this vibe thing, but I don't mean to sound like a hippie or anything weird. I just
you followed the dead around.
Yeah, I break it.
That's
down.
where you sound like a hippie.
That's a place that I used to do a lot of. I used to paint up a bunch of shirts and sell them there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to work with an airbrush. I also was a break dancer at a young age, so we used to paint our pants and all that stuff.
It's nice having someone my age on the show.
Ha!
I feel like, they'll be like,
you get a lot of younger people?
Yeah, they'll be like, when I was in elementary school in like 1998 or something, or like 2001, I'd be like, just kill me.
Man, I'm not going to say my age, but this thing's starting to happen to me where I keep hearing this thing. People say, let's say the person will say, he's 50, he's an old man. And I'm like, whoa, slow down,
the thing that kills me is like you'd be hanging out with someone having a beer and they were born after like I got out of high school. And I'll be like, that's some freeze-dried bullshit right there.
Yeah. It's yeah.
It is what it is, man.
It is what it is.
Well, I think we are close to our time here, and we're definitely going to have to.
Man, we got a lot.
We're going to have you back because I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, sure.
Like I was looking at my clock, I'd be like, that can't be right. We're like close to time, right?
It's a good time. It's nice to have a honest genuine conversation with somebody.
Well, we will 100% have you back because, like I said, I feel like we just scratched the surface of the Rob Green story. Is there somewhere people can go online to see your work? I'm feeling like
best thing to do.
Do you have a website?
I don't.
Yeah, that's
now. I have a friend that does web design, and I said, send me $2,000, and you'll make a fortune with that, which is probably true. And then when I said there's $2,000, then I don't want to do that with it or do that with it. And the thing is, I'm just not that. I'm not that worried about being discovered en masse.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can only paint so much.
Right.
So, if I paint one big canvas, let's say I did it as a push, and I only took 1 week to do it, I could pay my bills doing that. You know what I mean? It would be nice. Let's say a famous person gets it, but I want them to get it because they love it, not because they're famous. You know what I mean? And again, it goes back to that. I just want it to be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
they can try and find you, Robert Green, on Facebook.
To answer your question. So, Robert Green on Facebook. I think that if you look up Rob M. Green is maybe what brings it up. But I prefer if people connect with me on Messenger or something. I'm happy to give you my phone number. I want to know you a little bit. I don't want to just sell a painting to some random person,
Yeah. Yeah, reach out. That's how we kind of got to know each other. And
there's always, you can, there's always a way to find me. If you, maybe someday I'll have a website. But
if you're in Boston and see some guy sprinting away from some cellophane wrapped around the street, say hi. Like I said, absolute pleasure. This was a blast.
Me too. I had a good time. Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll have you back again. And thanks to our listeners for listening.
And thank you.
Okay, thanks for checking out the podcast. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts on the Inebri-art Podcast Network. There's the Bar Talk. There's Old Colony Cast. There's, of course, the Inebri-art Podcast. And our latest, Retro Redoctopus, a kind of nerd genre podcast that you can check out now, all available on our website at inebri-art.com. And pretty much available everywhere that podcasts are available, on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all those things. And if you don't see it where you're looking, let us know. We'll try to get onto that as well. And you can also email us at inebri-art@yahoo.com with your questions, complaints, and suggestions. And also, if you could take the time to rate and review us on iTunes, that would be phenomenal. That helps us get more exposure and bring more of these great podcasts to your ears. And thanks again for listening.